What if I told you that 30 seconds could change everything? Not 30 days, not 30 hours, just half a minute. A single moment, a single sentence spoken with clarity, emotion, and certainty, capable of triggering a wave of transformation so precise that money, opportunities, and unexpected breakthroughs begin to gravitate toward you like metal to a magnet. At first, this might sound like fantasy, something too easy to be real. But that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Its simplicity hides a truth that most have forgotten, yet it's always been there, waiting quietly in the background of your life. In a world that rewards effort, complication, and endless struggle, we've been trained to overlook the most subtle forces. We chase results with tired hands, repeating cycles that never end, while ignoring the one tool that has been shaping our reality all along: our word. Not just what we say to others, but what we declare to ourselves, about ourselves, through ourselves. Because behind every phrase you speak, there is a vibration. And that vibration either builds your future or reinforces your past. When you understand this, even one sentence becomes sacred, not because of its length or beauty, but because of its alignment. The alignment between belief, emotion, and energy. Joseph Murphy understood this well. He taught that the subconscious mind does not respond to begging or wishing. It responds to command. Clear, focused, emotionally charged command. That means a single phrase, when spoken with unwavering belief, can do more than months of effort without alignment. This is not superstition. It's not about chanting mantras or whispering words to the wind. It's about realizing that your subconscious is always listening, always receiving, always responding. And when you finally speak the language it understands, when you declare not what you want, but what is, with conviction, it moves mountains. It reshapes reality from the inside out. You don't need permission. You don't need proof. You only need presence and precision. So yes, just 30 seconds. That's all it takes. But only if you're ready to speak from a place of deep truth. Only if you're willing to step out of the noise and into the silence where real creation happens. Because in that short, sacred moment, you're not just repeating a phrase. You're issuing a command to the universe and to the deepest part of yourself that things will never be the same again. Most people speak without awareness. Words slip out as reactions, complaints, idle expressions. I'm always broke. Nothing ever works out. I can't afford that. Harmless phrases, right? Just words? But what if they're not harmless at all? What if each sentence you say is an instruction, written in a language your subconscious never ignores? Because whether you realize it or not, every word you repeat becomes a signal, a code, and your mind, like the most obedient system, follows it without hesitation. Joseph Murphy didn't teach that your desires shape your life. He taught that your dominant declarations do. It's not what you wish for when you're feeling hopeful that changes your reality. It's what you say when you're tired, when you're scared, when you're not thinking. That's when your real programming reveals itself. And if that programming is built on lack, on fear, on doubt, then no amount of wishing can override it, until you consciously overwrite it. The subconscious doesn't analyze, it doesn't argue. It simply accepts. It accepts what is said repeatedly, especially when that repetition carries emotion. That's why your strongest beliefs often come not from logic, but from what you've told yourself over and over again, sometimes without even noticing. And those beliefs, buried like roots beneath the surface, produce the same fruits again and again in your life, regardless of how much effort you put in to change things externally. But here's the breakthrough. If words created the limitations you live under now, they can also dissolve them. If a sentence can block you, another sentence, aligned, intentional, felt, can free you. Because the same subconscious mind that holds you in patterns can also release you into a new reality. And that reality begins with a new code, not one of desperation, but one of truth. Not a plea for change, but a declaration that change has already arrived. When you understand that your words are not descriptions of your life, but blueprints of what's being built next, you start to speak differently. You become more careful, more deliberate, more quiet when you're unsure, and more powerful when you are clear. That's when your voice stops being noise and becomes a tool of manifestation, a switch, a sacred technology, one that, when used with certainty, can call in more than just hope. It can call in wealth. It can call in freedom. There's a reason why. No matter how hard some people try, abundance always seems just out of reach. It's not because they aren't worthy. It's not because they aren't working hard enough. It's because deep within the architecture of their thoughts, something else is running the show. An old code, a belief that was never questioned. And this belief creates a trap, a mental pattern so subtle, so familiar, that it feels like truth. But it's not truth. It's conditioning. From the moment we wake up, our minds are flooded with reminders of lack. We scroll through images of what we don't have. We compare. We stress. We whisper silent worries about bills, debt, uncertainty. And then, when we try to shift, when we attempt to speak abundance into existence, those old beliefs rise up like ghosts. They say, "Be realistic." They say, "It's too late." They say, "That's not for people like you." And so, even in the act of declaring wealth, we reinforce the very absence of it. This is the paradox that keeps so many stuck. They ask for more, but vibrate with fear. They speak of success, but carry the tone of doubt. And the subconscious listens, not to the words, but to the energy behind them. It feels the hesitation, the double message, and it responds by holding the current reality in place. Because to the subconscious, repetition means safety. Even if that repetition is lack, it feels known. And the known is preferred over the uncertain, even if that uncertainty is better. But once you become aware of this trap, everything can change. Awareness is the doorway. When you start catching the small phrases, the silent thoughts, the invisible beliefs that have shaped your financial reality, you gain power. You begin to interrupt the cycle, not by fighting it, but by replacing it. Gently, consistently, you begin to speak new codes, stronger ones, clearer ones, until the old programming fades and something else takes root. Because abundance is not outside of you. It's not waiting in some distant future. It's waiting for a new signal. And that signal begins the moment you stop arguing for your limitations and start claiming what has always been yours, without apology, without fear, without looking over your shoulder for permission. That's when the trap breaks. That's when the energy begins to shift. And that's when your world starts to respond in kind. Most people think of faith as something abstract, emotional, even religious. A feeling you're supposed to have when there's no evidence, a way of hoping against the odds. But faith is far more than that. When understood properly, it is not just belief, it is frequency. And in the universe we live in, frequency is law. Everything vibrates. Every thought, every feeling, every cell, every word you speak emits a frequency. And that frequency is either attracting or repelling the very things you say you want. The law of vibration precedes the law of attraction. Before anything is drawn to you, it must first resonate with you. That means it's not your desires that pull things in. It's your state. It's how you feel, what you embody, what you radiate, even in silence. And this is where faith becomes real power. Because faith is the ability to hold a vibration of certainty, even when there is no external proof. To act, speak, and feel as if the unseen is already on its way. That is not blind hope. That is energetic alignment. Joseph Murphy taught that your subconscious responds to the emotional tone behind your statements, not the words themselves. When you speak with hesitation, your subconscious senses conflict. But when you speak with faith, true, embodied, emotional certainty, it listens, it receives, it responds. Not because it was convinced by argument, but because it was impressed by energy. Emotion is the carrier wave of belief. It is the fire that burns the code into your inner reality. And the science supports it. Neurologically, your brain forms and strengthens pathways based on repetition and emotional intensity. The more you emotionally invest in a thought or belief, the more real it becomes to your system. Your reticular activating system begins to filter the world through that lens, noticing opportunities, patterns, and signals that match the belief. What once seemed invisible now becomes obvious, not because it wasn't there, but because you weren't tuned into it before. Faith, then, is not passive. It's not waiting for something to happen. It's becoming the version of yourself who already has it. Not pretending, not forcing, but tuning. You don't get abundance by needing it. You get it by matching it. And once your faith becomes a stable vibration, the law doesn't ask permission. It begins to deliver, quietly, precisely, undeniably. There are words we say every day without thinking. Phrases that slip out of our mouths unconsciously. Complaints, doubts, self-judgments, repeated so often they become the background music of our lives. And yet, we wonder why change never comes. Why breakthroughs feel distant. But what if all it took was one sentence, spoken once, with clarity, with certainty, with presence, to break that loop? Not a chant, not a wish, but a direct command to the most powerful part of your being. Joseph Murphy taught that your subconscious is always listening, always recording, and most importantly, always obeying. It doesn't question your instructions. It doesn't debate. It simply accepts what is fed to it with conviction. That's why the words you speak with emotion matter far more than those you say with logic. And this is where the sentence becomes sacred, not because of its poetry, but because of its alignment with truth. A truth your subconscious already recognizes, even if your conscious mind is still catching up. The sentence is not magic. It is structure. Each part is intentional. It removes the old, implants the new, claims what is already yours, and activates the process of manifestation through declaration. Spoken out loud, it vibrates into the field. Spoken with feeling, it imprints onto the subconscious. Spoken with faith, it rewrites your inner script. That's what makes it powerful. Not its length, not its volume, but the state you enter when you say it. Here it is. I command my subconscious mind to remove all. all limiting beliefs about money, success, and abundance. I am worthy of wealth. Money flows to me easily and constantly. I am financially free, and every day my prosperity increases. Abundance is my birthright, and I claim it now. Thank you for the wealth that is already mine. Don't rush through it. Don't whisper it while distracted by your screen. Say it as if the entire universe is listening, because it is. Say it not with hope, but with certainty. Not to test if it works, but to decide that it already has. When you speak from that space, you do more than affirm. You reset, you shift, you realign your reality with a frequency that has no choice but to respond. You can repeat a phrase 1,000 times. You can memorize every word, get the rhythm perfect, even say it louder than anyone else. But if there's no emotion behind it, nothing moves. The subconscious doesn't respond to empty sound. It responds to vibration. And that vibration comes not from repetition alone, but from feeling. Real, visceral, undeniable emotion. That's the true activator. That's what turns words into electricity and affirmations into transformation. Think about the moments in your life that left the deepest mark. They weren't defined by what was said, but by how it made you feel. Joy, pain, shock, peace. Your nervous system remembers intensity. It encodes it, and your subconscious is no different. When you speak a phrase like, "I am financially free," the subconscious doesn't ask if it's currently true. It simply asks, "How does this feel?" And if your answer is flat, distracted, or full of doubt, that's the signal it receives. But if the emotion behind your words is clear and elevated, even if the outer world hasn't changed yet, your inner system begins to adjust as if it already has. This is why Joseph Murphy emphasized belief, not repetition. He knew that the emotion you carry is the blueprint for what you attract. It's not about reciting words from a script. It's about embodying the feeling those words are meant to awaken. Gratitude, freedom, confidence. When those emotions rise to the surface while you speak, the subconscious opens. It listens. It rewires. Not because you forced it, but because you felt it as real. And there's no need to fake it. You don't have to force joy when you're anxious, or pretend peace when you're struggling. You simply have to find a spark, a single emotional thread in the direction of truth, and follow it. That spark could be the feeling of relief, of knowing you're taking your power back. It could be the warmth of imagining freedom, even for a moment. That flicker of feeling, repeated and nurtured, is enough to begin the shift. Emotion is not weakness. It is currency. It is the energy that bridges the invisible and the visible. So the next time you speak your sentence, don't say it to be heard. Say it to be felt. Say it as if the words are waking something ancient in you, something that always knew you were meant for more, something that's now finally ready to answer. Once the sentence is spoken, the work doesn't stop. It begins. Not through action, not through effort, but through quiet alignment. Through repetition with presence. Through ritual. For 7 days, you're not just repeating words. You're training your subconscious to accept a new identity. You're shifting your inner compass from lack to abundance, not by force, but by frequency. This is what Joseph Murphy referred to as subconscious conditioning, and the way it takes root is through daily, emotional, uninterrupted declaration. Here's how it works. Every morning, before you touch your phone, before the world pulls your attention outward, You sit with yourself for just 30 seconds. You breathe in. You place your awareness on the space behind the words, and you speak the sentence out loud. Once. No multitasking, no rushing. Just you, your voice, your breath, and the energy of truth. Then again at night, before sleep, when the mind is most open, when the veil between conscious and subconscious is thinnest, you say it again, with the same conviction, the same clarity, the same stillness. But here's the key. You do it in silence, not silence of sound, but silence of exposure. You don't talk about this process. You don't post it. You don't share it with anyone. Not because it's secret, but because it's sacred. The moment you externalize it, you dilute it. You open the door for doubt, for interference, for energetic leaks. And right now, what you're building is delicate. Powerful, yes, but still forming. Like a seed just placed in the soil, it needs protection, not publicity. You'll notice subtle shifts within the first 48 hours. A change in how you feel, a moment of unexpected ease, a conversation about money that feels different. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The process is beginning to unfold, not always loud, not always dramatic, but real. And the more consistent you are, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, the sentence is no longer something you say. It's something you are. This 7-day activation isn't a challenge. It's not a test. It's a remembering. A return to the part of you that always knew you were meant for abundance. And all it asks of you is presence, repetition, and silence. 7 days, 2 declarations a day, spoken with full belief. And then, watch what happens. You weren't meant to struggle your entire life. You weren't born to chase, to beg, to fight for scraps of happiness or fragments of peace. You were born into a universe governed by order, by energy, by law. And within that law, abundance isn't a prize. It's not a reward for the lucky or the chosen. It's your inheritance, not something to wish for, but something to claim. And when you understand that, your entire relationship with wealth begins to shift, from a pursuit to a remembrance. Joseph Murphy never taught you to hope for abundance. He taught you to accept it, to command it, to align with it so fully that the universe has no choice but to mirror it back to you. This is not arrogance. It's not fantasy. It's alignment with what is already yours by design. The power isn't in the sentence alone. It's in the version of you who chooses to speak it, not from desperation, but from certainty. And yes, doubt will whisper. Old patterns will try to pull you back. But now you know, those voices are echoes of a version of you that no longer exists. The moment you speak the new code with presence, with emotion, with faith, you're no longer operating from the old script. You've stepped into a new timeline, a new identity. And in that space, abundance is not something you need to find. It finds you. So don't wait for external proof to start believing. Let your belief be the proof. Let your energy walk ahead of your results. Let your words shape the path before your feet even move. And above all, keep going. Speak it again tomorrow. Let the vibration settle deeper. Let the shift become permanent. This is how reality bends. This is how wealth begins to flow, not from outside in, but from inside out. If this message stirred something in you, it wasn't by accident. There are more truths waiting for you, more sentences, more insights, more activations. They're already here. Choose the next one. Watch the videos appearing on your screen now. Follow the current. This is just the beginning. Your abundance has already started to arrive.